You know, I was wondering, you know, if you could keep on, because the force, it's got a lot of power, and it makes me feel like it makes me feel like
Michael Jackson.
The defense maintained that it wasn't Murray who administered the fatal dose. It was Jackson himself.
When Dr. Murray left the room, Michael Jackson self-administered a dose of propofol that, with the lorazepam, created a perfect storm in his body that killed him instantly.
The defense said it was the final fatal move for a man with a tortured history of substance abuse.
I specialize in addiction medicine.
Dr. Robert Waldman reviewed records from Jackson's dermatologist. In the months before his death, Jackson got frequent treatments and lots of painkillers.
I believe there's evidence that he was probably addicted to opioids.
For the Jackson family, they were hard words to hear.
And they sat in that courtroom and listened to testimony that their son and brother was a drug addict. And often they had to leave, but they were always there the next day.
The addiction, the insomnia, the desperation were so great, said defense experts, that Jackson swallowed powerful pills by the handful.
That's enough to put 6 of you to sleep.
But was Murray responsible for Jackson's fatal overdose? As the opposing attorneys gave their closing arguments, 2 very different answers emerged.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case is overwhelming that Conrad Murray acted with criminal negligence. That Conrad Murray caused the death of Michael Jackson. That Conrad Murray left Prince, Paris, and Blanket without a father.
Dr. Murray.
The defense insisted that Murray was driven by his own naive desire to help.
He thought he could help Michael Jackson succeed. He could help him sleep normally. He believed that. He was wrong. He was wrong. Because Dr. Murray had no control over this situation, because what was happening in the background, he was just a little fish in a big, dirty pond.
Finally, it all rested with the jury. 2 different versions, one man dead, and another's freedom hanging in the balance.
And we're following the breaking news this hour. A verdict in the involuntary manslaughter trial of Dr. Conrad Murray.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter.
After his conviction, Murray was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Coming up, claims that the promoters behind Michael Jackson's tour were responsible for Murray's negligence.
The AEG defendants were negligent in hiring, retaining, or supervising Dr. Conrad Murray, and that ultimately led to the death of Michael Jackson.
All I want to say is that they don't really care about us.
In these intimate home videos and family photos used in court, a rare look at Michael Jackson as he grows from a young boy to one of the most celebrated entertainers of our time, performing songs like I Want You Back. And finally, into a father himself.
Hi, my name is Prince Michael Jackson, and I love my daddy. And I'm Daddy's baby, and I love my daddy. And my name is Daddy's baby.
But by age 50, Jackson was gone, and his personal doctor, Conrad Murray, had been found legally responsible for his death. But was Murray solely to blame? Not according to the Jackson family. Michael's mother and his children went back to court in 2013, this time filing a wrongful death suit against concert promoter AEG Live.
This case involved a number of legal questions. First of all, was Dr. Murray hired by AEG Live? Did AEG Live know that he was a risk to Michael Jackson? And should AEG Live pay damages?
Kevin Boyle was the attorney for Katherine Jackson.
The AEG defendants were negligent in hiring, retaining, or supervising Dr. Conrad Murray, and that ultimately led to the death of Michael Jackson.
AEG Live attorney Marvin Putnam said that Dr. Murray was working for Jackson and not the company.
I can't quite understand how they're making the claim they're making, given Conrad Murray's own statement. 2 days after Michael's passing, he said, I was hired by Michael Jackson. I had worked for Michael Jackson for years.
AEG Live stood to lose or gain millions based on the results of Jackson's concerts. And the Jackson family claimed AEG Live instructed Murray, quote, not to look out for Jackson's best interests, but rather to do whatever medical procedures were calculated to get Jackson to perform. And an email AEG Live co-CEO Paul Gongaware sent to the show's director seemed to support their theory.
It really is a smoking gun. It's probably one of the most important pieces of evidence that Michael Jackson's attorneys have, that AEG supervised, directed, forced, employed Dr. Conrad Murray to provide Michael Jackson drugs so that he could perform.
At 4:11 p.m.
In a taped deposition played for the jury, Gongaware was confronted with the email he sent.
It says, we want to remind him that it is AEG, not MJ, who is paying his salary. We want him to understand what is expected of him. Did you write that email?
I don't recall.
He came across as suffering some sort of executive amnesia, if you will.
The Jackson family, in looking at that email, believes that AEG made it clear to Dr. Murray that he was supposed to make sure that Michael Jackson performed no matter what.
Hold for applause, slow umbrella fade out.
Show director Kenny Ortega emailed Gongaware 11 days before Michael's death with concerns about the singer's health. An emotional Ortega read his emails to the jury. There are strong signs of paranoia, anxiety, and obsessive-like behavior. I think the very best thing we can do is get a top psychiatrist to evaluate him ASAP. Ortega could see, perhaps better than anyone else, exactly what effect the grueling preparation was having on Jackson.
The insight that he gave into what was happening with Michael in his last weeks was incredible, about his deterioration, about how he couldn't remember his lyrics to his songs, about how he wasn't getting the dances, and about the conversations with the AEG Live executives about what to do about Michael.
AEG attorneys argued Michael Jackson was a drug addict who sought out doctors who would feed his addiction, like Conrad Murray.
They brought out a long parade of doctors who had given Michael painkillers or had used propofol on Michael Jackson.
The defense used the deposition of Randy Jackson, Michael's brother, to argue that not only was Michael addicted to drugs, but he would have resisted any attempts at an intervention.
AEG Live said, if the family can't help him, if the family can't stop him, how could we, as concert promoters, ever be expected to have done that?
This is it. Here I stand.